Hey everyone, it's Rob Jackson with Fandroid.com, and it is Developer Appreciation Month here at Fandroid all of June. We're here with Steve Albright. What's up, Steve?
What's going on? Who
is Fandroid's lead Android developer, but he's been working on a lot of projects for the company, Neverstill Media, the parent company, and we'll get into some of those. You've seen some of them, like carrier coverage, football pick'em, and Steve's right now is hard at work on the Fandroid news app. But for Developer Appreciation Month, we're going to have a ton of stuff going on. Contests, giving away a ton of stuff, a lot of interviews with developers, just a lot of stuff geared towards developers because really that's what made Android what it is. Yeah, so I guess how did you get started with Android?
How I got started with Android? Well, I think it came down to, I have to admit I started out with iPhones. And I don't have my Android. And to get back to asking how I got involved with it was really, I've always been a fan of Linux in general, and that kind of news pushed me to an Android operating system running on a phone. It was a Linux-powered phone, which kind of, captured my interest and got me moving and thinking past an iPhone.
So when you had the iPhone, though, you weren't doing mobile phone development yet. What's your background from?
Background, well, I mean, I went to school for computer networking, so you see how that worked out. So I have a large technology background. Did a lot of field support for network installations, server configurations, and which kind of leads into programming. You try to automate stuff. I got a job where I installed shipping systems, where I programmed full shipping systems. I worked on Amazon shipping system, which is crazy. And it just led into a personal interest of developing on the side, and that actually helped a lot of my jobs. And mobile development was sort of a hobby that I picked up that rolled into what I do today.
So you launched your own app on the side. You had ClutchPad, which you launched on Android Market.
Right.
It's still on Android Market. Go and download it. Although I keep him really busy, so hasn't been updated
Yeah,
in a while.
if it's not updated, it's Rob's fault. It's not mine.
But at that point, you're just starting mobile development, so you chose to work on ClutchPad, which you launched on Android. Shit, that was going good. You could have developed for the first time for fun at a hobby on iOS or another platform. I know WebOS was up and coming at that point. Why Android?
It struck my interest early on when it was just rumored. When they released the first phone, I just jumped aboard, started doing some tutorials, and since I knew Java, I caught on very quickly.
So the time when you first started developing for Android, that was much further after Google actually announced Android. And there was mixed emotions about Android when it was announced. I mean, if you look on all the tech sites and go back into the archives of when Google was announced, most of them were totally criticizing Google, saying they're out of their element, there's no way that they're going to be able to pull us off, they don't know anything about mobile, it's such a concrete industry already. There weren't that many people in support of Android. And
yeah, I think the major support of Android when it was just rumored was the whole users, or the whole Linux user group. You have that Linux community, and when it was first announced, I remember it always being a Linux-powered phone. That was the headlines that I was following, not Android anything. So that kind of led me down that path early on. That captured my interest. Later down the road, I started making some tutorials and going through the sample apps. And shortly after, I started ClutchPad because I saw some limitations of how the OS actually worked. And multitasking was a big issue before 4.0. And it's
why don't you tell people real quick what ClutchPad is?
Well, if you were not one of the millions that downloaded my app, ClutchPad is a little icon that runs on top of the layer stack of the Android OS. So it's a system level window that is always available. You can have a button, you can have it completely transparent, but when you actually swipe over it or click it, you get whatever functions or whatever actions that you want to see.
So what was that experience like? Because that's one thing that we're hoping through Developer Month to improve is the developers' ability to get their apps out there and known and get more exposure. And there's a disconnect between discoverability for users and the ability for developers of apps and games to reach the community. And how did you find the experience of launching that app, trying to get people to find it and see it? And
Well, when I first started, I had a full-time job, so it wasn't like my moneymaker or what I was doing full-time.
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't 100% focused on advertising. I just focused on getting my first app out there, and it was more of an experience of doing that. And I probably picked the worst app to start developing Android, because you're talking about, I'm using not supported API, which is probably the first mistake that you want to do to make money off of. You don't want to go down the road and develop, have a couple years of development on an application and it's working solid, then
right.
Google totally locks down an API, and that hidden API, and then your app does nothing.
Start with something easy and supported, right?
Right. So, if you're starting out and you're just getting involved in Android development, start out with the tutorials. It gets you to the basics, so you start learning how to develop the right way.
So I want to get back to that in a minute, with tutorial stuff, but real quick, talking about the first app I had developed ever was an app called Vote 2008 and Michael Novak is the guy that put it together for me. Really quick app. This is all, I just wanted to get something on Android Market and see how it performed. Have you ever told you this?
No.
No. Okay, so all you did was you open the app and you choose Obama or McCain for who you think's going to win. So people downloaded it like crazy. It got like 15,000 downloads. This was when Android Market there weren't that many phones, there weren't that many users, and people were commenting like crazy, and it was insane. Kind of funny because like a year later after the election, Google sent me an email asking if they could feature the app on Android Market, which is like, it makes no sense because the election had already taken place.
Even when the market first came out and I had my first Android phone, I remember that I always go to the new apps and I could search the new apps and I'd know about every app that came out. Now, there's no chance that you can do that.
No.
There's just way too many.
And it used to be there's too many because some random person was launching 8 billion different sexy time apps.
Hot babes.
Or like, yeah.
Yeah.
And all it was a picture.
Right.
One picture, like a photo gallery. But now, there's even too many legitimate apps being launched.
Right.
So, it's crazy and it's competitive as anything.
So if you are getting started in development, start off with something easy and then move on to something, but make sure if you're going to spend a lot of time developing it, I would put a lot of thought into the idea and make sure that there's a void to fill. So, good ideas will come along. There's lots of new things that need to be developed out there.
And do you think that, from that standpoint, if you are going to build an app that takes a lot of time and effort and is a little more advanced, maybe timing it out or spacing it out so you build a basic feature set first so that when you launch it, kind of, test out the waters and then...
Yeah, well, I'm terrible at feature creep, and the worst thing to do is develop a full application exactly how you picture it to be in the end before you release it to the public. You want to, get a first. You want to do milestones and develop so much, release it, and make sure you fix all the bugs you have.
When people were getting started, I know, like, I obviously don't do any development stuff, but when I was, for example, first started making websites and whatnot, and especially hobbyists that are just doing it on the side, you build relationships with other people doing the same things, you bounce ideas around, and people help you out. It's very open, and to get kind of to that next level, people give you help. Like, they spend their time, they spend hours with code on you, and then in return, then you help other people out. But it's kind of so it is that way with Android as well. And if so,
it is. And
are there certain people that helped you out from back in the day when you first started that helped you along?
Definitely. You mentioned Mike Novak. He's a big influence on how I develop now. I actually talked to Kevin Barry a lot, which is Nova's developer, which he just released not too long ago, but he's famous for Widget Locker. I think the community behind Android is what makes it Android today, because if developers didn't talk and it was just everyone developing their own little app, a lot of the frameworks that are out there that are open source wouldn't exist.
For new people getting started,
Right.
I'm guessing a lot of the people getting started will have Java experience to begin with, or I mean, there's various levels of getting started. But for the person who's already got a decent coding background, just hasn't done Android, would you have any specific recommendations or?
I think the biggest one is to check out the resources available from Android's developer site, because they spend a lot of time and effort to build decent tutorials. They have even some video tutorials I've seen and I've reviewed that are just very good. Some are outdated, but they've been getting better at the newer tutorials and keep them up to date.
Is there a way to interact with people on that developer site, or if you have questions?
Well, I think the biggest one
is
is to join the email developer group.
Okay.
So if you get on that, you could ask a question and people will get back to you. But please search first before asking a question. Sites like Stack Overflow is huge for tutorial resources, and even our own Android forums.
What are the tools that you have that you use every day for Android? Like, you've got your basic toolkit,
Right.
Like your I don't know, different software, hardware. Tell us about your setup.
To start out, I started with Eclipse and for the IDE, what I actually code in, and that was recommended by Google. And if you're a beginner, to Eclipse or any IDE for Java or the Android SDK in general, I'd go with that just because there's tutorials that match up to it. There's more support for it. I actually use IDEA 11 right now from IntelliJ, and it's just personal preference. It's pretty similar to Eclipse, but it has a little bit of different feature set and it has a different workflow. You can use emulators. Emulators aren't the best for all testing. I personally always connect my device up to my computer to actually do some testing and developing.
What about testing other devices?
You can never have enough Android devices.
But what if
You
you
should buy me some more.
what if you want to test a device that you don't have? Are there emulators where you can test specific devices?
Well, you can pretty much set up the requirements for devices, but to figure out like bugs that you'll find on like Motorola devices, not really bugs, just different things that happen,
Yeah.
different situations that come into play when you're developing. It's best to find someone that can test your app, and that's where the developers, like friends that are my developer friends, they help me all the time with testing my apps on their devices.
So let's talk a little bit about the different projects you've worked on since you've been with Neverstill. Carrier coverage, which is one of those clutch pad type apps that gets
Carrier coverage is a career ender.
yeah. It's so much.
There's so many
involved.
variables,
and it's crazy. And
the biggest problem is, well, for you that you don't know what carrier coverage is, exactly what the name is, it logs your carrier coverage. We've done a couple posts about it, but it logs your cell signal strength for your location and sends it to a big server, and
along with specific information about that
device.
data point of your phone, what carrier,
Right.
your coordinates.
The biggest problem is there's no signal strength standard. So whatever the company wants to say your bar level is what it is. And how they calculate the bar strength off of the dBm is totally up to them. They could always say you had 4 bars and you never even know. But
And some of them don't properly report what the dBm is based on if you're on Wi-Fi or this or that, and then
they don't use actually specific Codality SDK, so they use their own. So then
you've got to convert it.
we get into like reverse engineering on how they figure that out, which is a big mess itself.
And then what if they change? They have, it goes to a new version of their OS.
Yep.
Or their
It's
so
an ongoing support for that type of.
And then you've got rooted devices, which, if you're rooted, you can change that system level stuff that shows what phone you're using, what carrier you're using. So
I think the biggest point of when a custom ROM does that is it's for someone to see specific apps that they don't see on the market, then they make a change, it tricks the market so they can actually see those. Or you might have a ROM that maybe changes your carrier name so you see a different carrier name in the status bar. So there's a lot of extra fields that we have to look at, and it's a manual ongoing process to make sure that our data is accurate. So it's a big task.
So carrier coverage is one of your main, that's taking up the bulk of your time.
Right. I mean, the application itself is a very basic application. Log data, send it. And I've improved that over time, but the majority of it is trying to figure out how to accurately account for signal strength among multiple devices.
And we're still working on that, but man, is it complicated. Now, are there things that you've learned from that experience over the past year that you think will help you in future apps or games or whatever, or in future development?
I think, well, I learned a lot about how custom ROMs and manufacturers modify different things on the phone, because I've ran across so many different situations and scenarios, and it's really unfortunate how many things that are not a standard. But with that said, I mean, it was a great learning experience just from day one when I started working on that, because I know so many different things that I run into now that I'd have to research more, but I already know because I spent time dealing with it, like just about certain devices and how they act in different situations.
Mm-hmm.
It could be, GPS location, how background services affect battery life. There's just tons of things that are involved with an ongoing service that logs data on that specific device and then sends it to a server.
So we kind of are letting carrier coverage get data points and using the data, and we're going to jump back to that. But another app that we've worked on and was Football Pick'em,
Right.
which
We started way too late.
Yeah, but it's a crazy idea. There's no.
I think
actually
you came up with an idea about Football Pick'em like probably
a month before the season started.
before it started, and then we started development about 2 weeks before it started.
Yeah, and actually it was a great. I mean, it was a great app, but the concept of the app, when Google announced Android, there was a lot of criticism about, well, how are you making money off this? And Google's response had always been, we don't plan to make money off of it. We plan to make money off of it by increasing use of the internet and the web. When you put mobile into people's hands, they'll be looking at more web pages. There's more places for ads, but we're not trying to profit off of Android itself. I mean, whether or not that's true or has turned out to be true, I don't know.
I remember seeing their global scheme of everything, and it was better the internet and
they'll succeed from it.
Yeah, they're going to succeed from it because
Right.
they're based, that's their core.
And we've done that with a lot of, taking that same approach, whereas, we want to build something awesome for the users, come up with a cool idea that users are going to love, and then figure out how to leverage that later on. So that was kind of our idea with Football Pick'em. I thought it would be really fun to have a Football Pick'em where you're just trying to pick who's going to win the games and kind of compete against your friends and compete against other people each week to see if you can guess the most games right in the week and the season. So we did that, and we actually gave away a $100 gift card each week to the weekly winner, $500 gift card to the season winner, and tickets to the big game.
Yeah.
For
the big game.
For the overall winner.
I think this year coming up, since we already have a year experience doing it, we got most of the bugs going out. We have a bunch of features that we want to add to it.
But it's interesting how different that was too, because with carrier coverage, we had been developing for a long, long, long time and hadn't released anything.
Right.
Then we flipped the switch to an app where we're going to launch it in a month. We have to. The season's coming. We're going to build an app and a website with the app that work together, and we pumped that out. So was that almost like culture shock to you? Like how? Like totally shifting gears and doing something completely different.
I think it was refreshing.
I
think it was refreshing because when you're developing the same application for a long time and it seems like you're treading in water, it's nice to switch it up and do something different. But as far as like being rushed to get that done, that was kind of exciting too, because we wanted to be ready for people to start making picks.
Mm-hmm.
But we made it so if you got in a couple weeks late to pick them, it wouldn't affect you because you still had a chance to win the big game.
Right, because if you won the week, you got
Right.
paid and you went into the playoffs.
Right. So I think that's
that was
important.
I think that was an important decision.
But overall, I enjoyed working on a different app in general.
And he doesn't even like football.
Yeah.
But he'll come around.
Yeah. I might like football after all of the apps about football that I've done.
Right, so we're doing Football Pick'em a second year. There will be an update soon to it. And same prize structure. We lost a lot of money on the app, to be honest.
Well, I didn't either.
I mean, because we invested all the money in the prizes, on the development, all that stuff. I just love the idea. I think it's fun. I think we can build a community around it, and if a lot of people are enjoying it, having fun, then I think there's a way to leverage that. But we'll worry about that down the line. But we came up with an app called Football Schedule 2012.
Right.
Which is just the schedule, and it's a really neat, slick interface for showing it. You can favorite and star certain games and look at only the starred games. You can set your favorite team, and then your team schedule is right there for you. And we did this for a couple reasons. One was to kind of do the layout and test the next version of Football Pick'em on
Right.
footballbeast.com, but without having to update that app. And also, we're going to be doing a case study on mobile ads and revenue for Football Schedule 2012 to kind of give people an idea of what goes into that and how it all works and number of downloads and all that good stuff. So the Football Schedule design actually came from your design of the new Fandroid app, where it's a similar
very
derivative.
similar. And I do have to give credit to Mike Novak because he shared some code with me, and he had some examples that he has, and I think he's releasing a couple open source projects coming out, but he did that in GigBeat, and it's a well thought out interface. His application has more than just what my navigation is with the swipe, but same concept, and I think the first example of that was the market with the swipe navigation and the tabs, the swipe tabs. But you can see in the latest Android 4.0 and higher, they've used tabs, swipe pages in a lot of their layouts.
And for just real quick, those who don't know Mike Novak, he's worked on a lot of different stuff actually. I mean, right? He's worked on, he's now got his own company work on GigBeat,
Right.
which is an app where you can follow different musicians, bands, and stuff, see where they're playing.
We'll put a link up. I can't remember their name.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll have Mike do an interview with us or some Dev Month stuff, because he's a really fun guy to talk to, super insightful, and working on a lot of cool stuff.
I don't know if he's super insightful, but I'm just kidding. He's a great guy. He provided me a lot of help, and he's one of the main guys that helped me get where I am now in Android development. So I thank him for letting me nag him for a couple of years. It's very nice of him. So we're talking about apps that
Yeah.
we've developed. Mike Novak hour is over.
It's going in the bloopers.
But the next app that we developed was, after Football Pick'em, was Football Schedule, we talked about a little bit. And then after that, I started developing the Fandroid application.
So what's your favorite part of the new Fandroid News app?
I created it.
Nice.
No, I mean,
What's your second favorite?
I think the thing about it is we're backtracking and saying what's needed by the user, and for the news users, we're our first approach, and we want to deliver news and have it perform well, have it fast, it's lightweight, it utilizes the new interface, which is great, and anyone on 4.0 or higher would have to agree, I think, I can speak for everyone, that the new UI is much sleeker, faster, and performs a little better.
Awesome. So look for that on Google Play. What are the 3 most frustrating things about Android development?
3 most frustrating. I would say
In quick sentence, sum up each one with a sentence.
the first one is probably how many variables of devices you have. Because
Okay.
you have a large variety of devices and you run into all sorts of problems.
Okay. So number of devices.
Right.
Number
So
one.
it takes a lot of effort to debug and test all of your apps thoroughly. So that's number one. Number two, I would have to say there's not an easy way to test without a physical device. So there's not and like the emulator's decent, but it's slow, it's hard, it's limited. I wish there was a one-for-all solution to be able to test it, like a native environment virtually. Right.
So then what's three? I know what I would pick as number one, but I'm not the developer.
I'm trying to think of another thing that really bugs me.
Okay, how about this? And you might be like, definitely. How about users who download your app, leave 1 star, and say no likey or something, and don't give you a reason or why the app didn't work or anything?
I don't know what that'd be. I don't know if I'd be more mad that the user does that or that I cannot comment back.
Yeah.
Or that it maybe affects someone else's opinion. But yeah, it's definitely, that's frustrating that you brought it up. Now I'm getting anxious about how I want to comment on back on it.
Because I don't know. To me, you should be able to. No, I think you want to please the user.
Right.
You don't want them to be angry with you or give you 1 star, but you have no opportunity to redeem yourself or fix what you haven't done right or whatever issues there are.
Yeah,
So-
I think the most important thing, Google's updated now what they call Google Play. They updated how you see comments, so you might be able to see the most useful. You can sort by that now, which is better. It's not like a complete fix-all situation. And honestly, I don't think there should be a feature where we can reply to the comments because
There shouldn't be.
I don't think there should be.
Really? Because I know
And
TripAdvisor does
I would
that.
love to comment back on some of them, but I think you're just going to be wasting time dealing with the users. If they give a 3-star and state some things that maybe aren't up to par that you could improve, I would see commenting back to them and getting some more feedback. But someone that leaves a 1-star and installs the app, uninstalls it right away after they give the 1 star, and is just a really ignorant user, you're just wasting time commenting back on it.
But then that just comes down to your own approach of how you're going to reply to comments. But there are times when you really want to. Like someone could leave a 1 star and says, force close whenever I open it on my Motorola Droid X.
Right.
And then you can't, you want to be like, all right, dude, help me test this or help me figure this out. Like, are you running a custom ROM or something, or are you, might it conflict with something? You have no way to get more information. So
I think it'd be
also-
nice to be able to contact them to maybe try to get some more information, because not every user that gives a 1 star is going to contact you via email or anything like that.
And on TripAdvisor, for example, services or hotels or whatever, they can reply back to positive feedback, negative feedback. And I think seeing how the companies or people respond is interesting to see. You don't want.
I can see it both ways. Now you said that, because I do see that other angle, and it would be nice to actually see how developers are involved with support through those comments too, because there's a lot of developers out there that do care on how their app performs, and they will get back to you and give support.
Or maybe someone else is leaving a bad, or leaves a questionable comment or has a criticism. The developer answers them. It solves their problem. Someone else reads that in the comments and says, "Oh, that's the problem I had. Now I can see how to fix it, or see they're working on it, or whatever."
You go to an app, see like 3 1 stars in a row, it's going to probably change your opinion on if you download that app right away.
Right, and even if it, there might be hundreds of reviews, but you just see those 3 that have the 1 star. Plus, it's just irritating to have 1 star when you work so damn hard on something, and you're like, dude, come on,
Right.
like at least, come on, bro.
It's very frustrating, and any developer will go that and leaps and bounds and saying how frustrating a 1 star is. But what is a 1 star? Even if you test an app and leave a rating, I don't think there should be any app that's a 1-star except for complete spam. You know, if there's some effort in development and you can see progress, you know, it's got to be at least a 2. I mean, what's a 1-star? I mean, really. You know, Hot Babes 5 is probably a 1-star.
Yeah.
After the 4th edition, it's got boring and updated. And if you open up an app, it force closes right away, or whatever, don't leave it 1-star. Contact support. You know, see if they can help you first. If the developer doesn't get back to you after like a couple days, they don't want to address the issue, then maybe give them a 1-star and be frustrated with them. Who cares? But there's so many developers out there that try out very hard to please the users, but they don't give them the opportunity to.
Yeah. Let's do something fun. Let's do word association. I say one word, and then
This would be bad.
you think of the first word that comes to mind. Windows Phone.
Crap.
WebOS.
I think HP.
Didn't even justify responses. Rob Jackson.
Awesome.
You get a raise. This isn't turning out as good as I thought it might.
No, this one. Cut.
Yeah. Maybe we should have you talk a little bit about yourself, non-developer wise. What's your favorite color?
My favorite color. It's either. I don't know.
This is supposed to be an easy question.
I think it was blue. I think I'm excited for Developer Month because it helps the new developers, or maybe the developers that have been around for a couple of years now, and maybe their app has not gotten the attention that it needs. You know, there's a lot of apps that get under the radar and missed, and because blogs don't pick it up. I mean,
Because there's only, we get
we get
dozens of emails a day.
right, lots of our spammy emails. So if we miss a valid application, you can't take it out on the guys that are going through the emails.
But definitely email us if you've got
We do
some.
that every day.
Actually, we'd love to have some exclusive stuff for Developer Month. So if you're working on an app, then it's just coming out. Let's coordinate a launch date, and we can work with you on publishing an exclusive on Fandroid, or like deals for established apps. But ultimately, you'll see later this month, we're launching a system where developers can get the word out there on Fandroid without having us, needing to look at every single email that comes in and publishing it. So we're pretty excited about that, and I think a lot of developers will be excited about the opportunity to have more exposure without having to pray that someone picks up their app or game.
Right, and I know personally from experience of just releasing an app, it's tough to get word of mouth going. The best way to get your app out there is to get involved in the community. I mean, I would like to see more participation on Android forums in the developer section. If you're developing an app, open a thread in the Android forum and release a beta.
Feedback, yeah.
Release a beta and get some people giving feedback. You'll get a lot of user support like that. And if you start doing that in the Android forums and then you tell us to review your app, chances are we saw it in the forums and it'll grab our attention more. So
Absolutely.
and personal level, we're on Google Plus too. I mean, if you don't want to talk in the forums, you can hit us up on comments. We're always commenting on. I usually post not relevant information about anything in comments. Usually just comment on Chris's hair or something. But you'll find us in the comments in the forums. So on social networks, we'll chat back. If you have a question, hit us up. We'll get back to you.
And we'll be at Google I/O. So if you're a developer and you're out there and you see us walking around, say hi. We always like to talk to developers and readers, and if you have a suggestion, let us know. If you hate us, let us know, but don't trip us or put a kick me sign on our back or anything. But yeah, check this
I don't
month.
think anyone hates us. Well,
Well,
maybe a few people.
maybe a couple. But yeah, so we've got a lot of exciting stuff planned. We hope all the developers out there are excited. Hopefully you all learned something from some of the other developers and their experiences. Hopefully you're excited about some opportunities like the contest we have coming up. We have a bunch of contests coming up. A couple new areas that are very developer targeted.
You said too much. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, there are going to be some good stuff coming out.
Yeah. We'll keep it a little secret, but just check in every day. There'll be opportunities to win stuff and some good, great content. And June is all about developers. So we hope you enjoyed this interview with Steve Albright from Neverstill Media and Fandroid, and Carrier Coverage and Football Beast and a lot of other stuff, and Clutchpad.
You might know me from. You might have known me. Oh, sorry.
Maybe not. Maybe not.
Fail.
Any shout outs you want to give before you peace out of here?
Shout outs to mainly all the developers that helped me, and I named a few. Mike Novak is a big one. Kevin Berry's another one. I'm a big fan of Kevin because he does awesome support. You know, that's his full-time job. Make it your full-time job. He does a lot of feedback to users.
And that's how you got talking to him initially?
Actually,
you used his app and then just provided feedback?
Oh, that's actually interesting. As a fan of Widget Locker, I used Widget Locker, and I added support to handle his API or his intents to his Widget Locker to be able to hide and show my application of Clutchpad. So that's when I started talking to him, and you know, he helped me with certain things, and you know, I like to think I helped him with something. Maybe not. Maybe I just annoy him, but you know, he's asked me advice here and there, and I've asked him a lot of things, and we work together on providing support between our applications. So it became a great relationship that we have for, you know, sharing little new things that come out. If something new comes out with SDK or something interesting that catches my interest, Kevin sends me over. If it's something really interesting, I always send it to the writers. So, you know, it's kind of it's cool working with a couple developers like that because they give you a lot of news tips on the side without them actually going and having to submit news on the website, you know. But,
yeah.
You know, so I always like to be involved in the community.
Which brings up a good point, though. Developers out there.
I'm not done with shout-outs.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Developers out there, if you want to submit news tips, we don't need it always to be some rumored or a leaked photo or something like that. If you have something really interesting that you think other developers might like to know, or anything really, something you found that you don't know if it's been uncovered elsewhere, send it to us. We're looking for ideas and things that other sites aren't reporting on. So just because it's not what the typical sites report on doesn't mean we don't want to know about it. We'd love to get some new types of content and information, and developers are looking at stuff from a much different point of view than most of our editors and writers, because we're not developers. So we would love your point of view. So if you've got ideas, send them to us, please.
Shout outs to everyone in the community that provide open source. There's a lot of people out there that provide their source code on GitHub and Stack Overflow. I've been trying to get more involved in Stack Overflow as well because I hate to be that greedy person that just takes, so I like to give stuff back. But it is time consuming to provide feedback. So if you do provide code and feedback to users, I can't thank you enough because it helped me get to where I am now. And
I think that's about it. Thanks, Steve, for joining us to talk about your experience with Android. And we'll look forward to the next 29, 30 days seeing you at Google I/O.
Yeah, that should be fun.
Thanks to all the developers out there, and we hope you'll check in every day to see what we've got all throughout this month for Developer Appreciation Month. So thanks, and we'll see you soon.